All right, good morning, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 11th, 2014, and this is Before the First Cup with Jules, Lady Pupil, and Zori on UCY.TV. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How's everybody doing? Zori, you're back in action.
I hope so. It's getting stranger and stranger. We've had 4 texts out here already.
Were they cute?
One of them was.
That's the important question.
Yeah.
You have a nice butt, and you don't get it fixed, that's okay.
Yeah, you coming back? I know it doesn't work still.
Right.
Sorry.
He did give us his own personal number, though, to call him back.
Hey!
That's what you were shooting for, wasn't it?
That's cute.
No, it's so strange. And it only happens on certain days from 9 p.m. to about 6:30 in the morning. Now tell me that's not weird.
That's very strange.
Are you sure you don't have some sort of, when I was on that satellite, there were the daylight hours and the nighttime hours, and there were 2 different ways that they tick time on your account. You know what I mean, for throttling. So anything during the day, and it was pretty inclusive of most of the hours. Like 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. was considered daytime, and then 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. was considered nighttime, and you got like double the bandwidth, not speed, but like instead of having 5 gig to use for the whole month, between 2 a.m. and 2 a.m. and 8 a.m. you had 10 whole gig of bandwidth that you could use up. So that's when I was downloading any of the pre-record shows, cutting them and uploading them again, was between 2 and 8 a.m., you know? But
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because I know Comcast has been talking about throttling bandwidth and
Well, we have unlimited bandwidth, and we're with AT&T. But the thing is, see, it'll be on, and then it'll be off for 3 minutes. Then it'll be on, then it'll be off for 1 minute. Then it'll be on, and then it's off for 13 minutes.
You know what that sounds like? That sounds like water in a line somewhere. It sounds like you're short-circuiting.
Yeah, they put all new wires, new boxes. Everything's been replaced. And right next door is AT&T. I should have the best service, but they can't. They're just baffled. So they put us on a different port, and since last night, and we seem to be okay. So I don't know.
Maybe a bad port at the switch.
Maybe. But we had them all baffled. That was nuts.
We made lots of new friends.
Yeah, I did. What cute one. Unmarried.
With nice butts.
There you go. And nice butts. Yeah.
Shh, don't tell. But, yeah, with no internet for 4 days, it's been kind of,
Listen to how pathetic we are, too. You got Lori Prepperchick doing her After Dark about, like, when there's going to be no meat,
right?
Or there's no gas. And we're like, man, no internet for a whole week. Wow, it was tough. But it is. I'll tell you what, we depend on that stuff so much.
I went over to my friends and got on a few times.
That's
Oh my god, I've got a virus. I had to reinstall Internet Explorer, and at least I'm able to read articles unimpeded by players playing randomly and crazy ads flying all over my screen.
Yeah, we need to get rid of that. I found the virus and malware.
It's malware?
Yep, you got both. But the malware, it's an upper memory. So, anyway, I'll have to get with you.
Oh, gosh. Just cool,
Yeah.
cool.
Oh, nuts.
So the coffee cup today it looks like actually 2 tower computers, which I think it is, but it says Twin Towers over the top of it.
Oh, no.
On a coffee cup.
Oh, my gosh. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Why? I'm pretty tasteless.
Today's gonna be
Anyone who
weird.
knows me. Did I lose everybody?
No.
Oh. Everyone just got real quiet.
That's funny.
Hey, where are you going to be without a little bit of humor? Tasteless humor.
Right. That's right. Absolutely.
That makes it funny.
Yeah, because I'm so sick of this. You got to be polite all the time. You know?
Anybody who lives in my household knows it's a pretty difficult thing for me to do. You know, I put on my bunny suit when I go out into public and smile all nice and please and thank you, but...
You get home and the bunny suit comes off.
Yeah.
and the Halloween suit goes on, right?
Yeah. Gremlin comes out.
That's funny.
Try to keep him under control, but sometimes he can't be silenced.
Well, sometimes it's good to have that one in there, though. That's for sure.
I blame that on my grandmother. The one who owned the bar that was only 4'11".
Yeah.
Hey, she had to make up for it in other ways.
Oh my God, did she ever?
Fantastic. That's awesome.
But I always said dynamite comes in small packages.
Yeah. Yes. Very much so. With, what did they used to call those? Elevator shoes.
Oh.
I'll never forget.
Lifts?
Yeah, the lifts. When I was a kid, you know, you pick through your parents and your grandparents' stuff, and she had this whole closet full of shoes. She had tiny little feet, but they were all like these wedges, especially in the 70s.
Oh, yeah. Platform shoes.
Mm-hmm. The platforms.
Good die. That's what my closet shoes look like, because I'm short.
Go ahead.
Like the guys that have like literal fish bowls in their boots. You ever seen those from the 70s? The platform shoes that you fish in, like goldfish.
Oh yeah, I saw it in a movie once, but not real time.
Yeah.
My grandmother actually used to have a cushion. It wasn't a telephone book, but it was a cushion on her car seat, and then a big block of 2x4 taped to her gas and brake pedal.
I had that on mine, except it was on the clutch and the brake, because on my 280Z, because they were so far away, I couldn't. Every time I'd put on the clutch, I'd have to sink down.
Oh, a block of wood on a 280Z?
Yes.
My dad had one of those.
I had to. I mean, one time I pulled up this signal, and it was late at night, and I had to put the clutch in, and I sunk down, and I looked over next to me, and there was a cop sitting there, and I went, I got to do something about this.
As they come over to see why a 6-year-old is driving the sports car.
That's cute.
Oh, God. No, but I did. I had a big, God, it must have been 3 inches thick, duct tape to my clutch.
Wow.
That's one way to
I thought it was normal. You know, it was always in my grandmother's. She had an old 1977 Ford Granada. Do you remember those?
Oh, God, yeah.
And she had the blocks of wood taped to the brake and the gas pedal with the cushion on the seat.
Wow.
I ended up getting that car eventually.
Wow.
Yeah, woohoo!
Did you have to take the wood out?
I did. I'm a bit taller than 4'11". Not much, but a bit.
Cute. That's funny.
So, hey, did you guys see that they have had snow already for a few days and, like, wicked snowstorms in Calgary, Canada?
Yes, I have seen that, and some of it got down here to the lower 48 up on the northern tier.
Yeah, I heard in some of the mountains they did.
Yeah. I mean,
we're still having 100 degrees here.
Yeah, and Texas is over 100 every day. Here, we just had that front come through. You guys probably got it the day before, Wendy, right?
Yes, we got it yesterday. We're at 57 degrees right now. So is it raining there? Because it rained all day yesterday here.
Yeah, you know what? It was supposed to. They actually were warning of wicked storms, but we got some significant wind last night. Mm-hmm. It got really windy. I had the door open all night, actually, because it was so comfortable. It was nice. The humidity went down. But not a lot of rain. And there were like 2 or 3 spates where you could hear the rain, you know, and the wind going, and then it would just stop as we hit another patch. And now it's just overcast. Very cool. I think a high of 70 today is what they're predicting.
Yeah, we're supposed to be in the 60s next week.
Wow, my peppers
Already.
better ripen. I got 4 bushes or 5 bushes of Tabasco peppers.
Ooh.
And there's only like 5 of them that are ripe so far, but the bushes are just loaded with peppers. So come on, we cannot get cold before that happens.
You know what? I'm gonna go out on a limb here and predict that we're gonna have snow by Halloween.
I did predict that. Yeah, I took my daughter when we were still on our vacation. She kept, you know how kids are. She's already running ahead to freaking Halloween, talking about her costume. I'm like, honey, it's only August, all right? And I said, let's get school started first. But she wanted to do this and she wanted to do that, and I said, look. You remember a couple years back it hailed, right? And last year it was so cold. I said, this year we're probably going to have snow. So I'd say be like Rudolph or something like that, you know, where you're prepared for the snow already.
She can be a snuggle bunny and then just have like a big hot rabbit suit on.
There you go. Or a polar bear.
A polar bear would be good.
With one little piece of ice.
Yeah, it's cute.
That would actually
I have a feeling. I mean that, and people are saying, like, I hear like just random people just saying it's going to be worse this year. The winter's going to be worse.
Farmer's Almanac came out and said that it's going to be a bad winter, but I mean, you could tell it didn't get warm here. I think when I really started to see farmers putting crops in, it was like already close to the middle of May.
Right.
That's late.
Yeah, that is very late. That's why your peppers they're not ripened yet, because they're, late.
Right, I mean, didn't it used to be like March is when I used to start them growing in trays inside, and then April you'd start putting them in, but you'd do, only the hardy ones, and you'd make sure you had covers for them, so if it got cold, you just pull the sheet over.
Yeah.
But not May.
Yeah.
May, I mean, back when I was a kid, by Labor Day, man, my wisteria would be in full bloom. We'd be in shorts hopping through the sprinkler already. Or not Labor Day, Memorial Day.
Right, Memorial Day. Absolutely.
We'd have big parties when I was a kid. The family would all come. We'd have a big Memorial Day party every year. And you'd be running around and squirting each other with hoses. And everyone's outside drinking beers. I mean, that was the kickoff to summer. Not 2 weeks before that, it just gets warm enough to plant plants.
Global warming.
Yeah,
thank you,
exactly.
Thanks, Al Gore. You bastard.
Well, here's the thing, too. When you think about global warming, take a look at just over the last few years of all these volcanoes that have been going off, right? And I think I talked about this before, that NOAA had put out some imagery with some of their new fangled satellites that are out there showing that as they were scanning the planet, and they probably had some new FLIR technology, right? Because just over the last couple of years, that really has become like widely available on all kinds of things. But they had discovered that all of these volcanoes that they had assumed were dormant aren't. Have you seen any of that? I mean, it was over the last few years or so.
Yeah.
And that a lot of these volcanoes are reawakening again. And, who knows what the reasons for that are, but the increase in earthquakes, increase in solar activity, all that stuff kind of goes together. By the way, there is at least an X1.6 that's Earth-directed, either hitting today or tomorrow. I believe there was a pretty significant M flare that came just the day before that. We'll have to look at that later. Cause
it went up to an X-class flare.
Yeah, I think I saw 1.2 at first, and then I saw last night it was actually a 1.6, but...
Well, did you see the links that I sent you?
Mm-mm.
I sent that to you yesterday, right when I saw it. I'm like, oh shit, I better send this to Jules.
Oh, I'll have to click on that. Sorry.
That's all right.
If you only saw my mailboxes and knew how many people on a daily basis are just trying to get my attention, and I'm just at the point. I just do what I can do, and then I wander off and I go try to live a life.
Well, that's fine. I mean, really,
I'll find it.
It was only a suspicious observer's clip, is what that was.
Oh, gotcha. Well, maybe we can listen to it in a minute. I'll get the thing hooked up. But anyway, getting back to these volcanoes. So one of the things that they had discovered is that all these volcanoes are waking up. And if you remember anything about what you learned about nuclear war in school, or any of your studies in regards to what would happen if there were a nuclear war, and I don't know about you, but that was something that always scared me as a kid, since they would make us go do drills, in the hall, covering your eyes against the brick wall, and that was pretty much your protection against Russia sending their intercontinental ballistic missiles over, and they gave us the tour of the fallout shelter in the basement. Nuclear winter is a big concern. I mean, if you make it through the radiation, and if you manage to not become contaminated, and if you can find clean food where you're not ingesting all of this radiation, of course taking it internally versus externally, you still have to worry about nuclear winter, and nuclear winter blocks out the sun. And so you have all these other concerns. Even if you could get clean soil and dig down to the topsoil layer where there wasn't contamination, and then water it with filtered or cleaned water, and all that jazz, you're not going to have proper sun if you have nuclear winter.
Right.
Well, what else causes nuclear winter? Well, in quotations, not officially nuclear winter, are large volcanic eruptions spewing large amounts of ash into the atmosphere. The same thing. So, as we've had these absolutely stupendous Icelandic eruptions. Now, did you see there's a new volcano that's erupting in Iceland that I think they believed had been out of commission, and now this thing is ramping up again. But we've had quite a number of them, and I mean, you take a look at that Pacific Rim, and on that Earth and Sky Tools, I think they do have a whole section there for volcanoes where you can go to the volcano reports. They're heating up all over the place. So anyone like Al Gore trying to sell the global warming, and maybe at one point we were on the path to global warming as we were all spraying CFCs on our hair and, leaving air conditioning units loaded with them leaking in landfills. But, a lot of the global warming, quote-unquote, global warming chemicals, and I mean CO2, yes, how are you going to fix that? Bill Gates thinks we need to remove it from the equation.
Jeez. Don't we need CO2 in some ways to survive? Yeah, that's what I thought.
You saw that TED Talk, right, from way back?
Yeah.
Where he's showing the whole equation, and, CO2 is one of the things in the equation. He's like, and one of these numbers has to go to zero.
It just happens to be the population.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, by the way, Bill and Melinda Gates donated $50 million to the Ebola battle.
Aren't they so generous?
Yeah, here, wait. Now I've hit on way too many things.
And really, or if you're kind of in the same vein you're just talking about, if you're freaking Al Gore and you're a disinfo agent, then you're touting global warming when really all the data shows that we're in a cooling stage. So, I mean, it's just the opposite of what he said is what is going on now.
I'd like to know where he got his info from, because honestly, I've been reading for years that we were heading back into a mini ice age.
Well, they used to talk about that like in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, I have been definitely reading for years. So then when they started talking global warming and showing me pictures of polar bears floating on little tiny melting ice scraps, I was like, oh no! It's global warming. Oh, no. You know what I mean? I fell for it. But they have been talking for years about us going into a mini ice age and looking cyclically and historically through the geological record that we have had these cyclical mini ice ages.
That's right. Absolutely. And everything does run in its cycle. And that's the way the universe works, too.
Yeah. It does. That's the way all of nature works.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, speaking of the way nature works, I don't know if SLC Mike is around this morning, but he dropped me a link yesterday Oh, and I actually have it. I saved them all into my queue. Actually, it's in the UCY queue on the UCY YouTube channel under liked videos.
Yay, Mike.
The channel name is UCY TV. There's no dot in there because it gave issues, so I didn't put it in there. But it's youtube.com/UCY TV on the main homepage. If you scroll down, there's a section for liked videos. Some of them are news stories. Some of them are interesting things to watch. But there were two of them from yesterday. One was Quantum Theory, full documentary in HD, and that was with Dr. Brian Greene. He's actually a pretty interesting physicist. You don't see him a lot, but he's a smart cookie. And the other one is Are We Real? And it kind of looks at the world from a quantum reality and whether or not we really are in the Matrix. And talk about mind-bending. I turned my 8-year-old onto the Quantum Theory video with Brian Greene yesterday, and she was digging it big time. I mean, she's a science head, and she's been doing space since she was 2, you know what I mean? So she definitely was getting it. She's like, wow. You know, they're doing multiplication, 3rd grade, you know. So I was really giving her a mindful when she was talking about, one of the teachers was talking about, you know, kids cheating and using cheat codes. And I don't know, why would you even put that into a kid's head? Why even be talking? I mean, it's just so stupid that they do stuff like that. So
that's Common Core.
Yeah, maybe it is Common Core. I told her, your mom has never, ever cheated on anything. And I told her, you sell yourself short when you do that. And your life, you have it one time. And life should be dedicated to learning as much as you possibly can learn, because there's so many mysteries out there that we'll never learn because there's not enough time in life. So when you're cheating yourself out of learning stuff. I said, so here, you're really into science and math and stuff. I'm going to turn you on now to a little bit of science, and this should encourage you to keep learning as much as you can, because if you keep learning your math, you'll be able to understand this stuff someday. And she was like totally psyched over that.
That's awesome, Jules.
So thanks, SLC.
Yay.
I don't know how we got off on quantum theory.
But still, it's you know what I mean? I mean, most parents don't speak that way to their kids. You know what I mean? And she's going to be just awesome.
Quantum theory to an 8-year-old?
Yeah, man. That's
not.
Awesome. It's totally awesome.
But you know what? Kids are smart enough. Yes. That, I mean, especially if you keep them away from the TV so they're not all freaking ADD where they can't pay attention for more than 30 seconds, right. Kids are smart enough and want to learn, and they want information that makes their brain melt, you know?
Yeah, they're sponges.
They're like sponges. Yeah,
yes.
Sponges.
With the information and everything in it. Why does this work? Why? I mean, they love that stuff, and you can be technical with them, and they'll get it.
I also explained to her how the brain is just like the biceps, and if you don't exercise them, they get flabby and dumb.
That's right.
You know? She didn't believe me. I said, but think about it. Like all summer, had you not been reading your 4 or 5 books every night before bed and writing stories and doing all your, she sets off her own little crafts and things that she does. She's got all these projects always that she's working on.
That's right.
I said, but if you hadn't done that, and you would have just been laying around, eating junk food, watching cartoons all summer, it would have been pretty damn hard to get back to school now, wouldn't it?
That's right. And she's probably ready to jump in with both feet.
She sure is.
That's awesome.
Actually, here's one thing I got to share, and then I'm going to stop with this.
Oh, I love it.
This killed me. This was maybe the beginning of this week. It might have been. So they just started last Wednesday, so it was just a week yesterday. And I think it was Monday this week. She comes home. She's like, Mom, I'm so excited. They're finally teaching us cursive. Now, I started her a couple of years ago and told her that I had seen in news reports that they weren't going to be teaching cursive anymore, and that I don't care. There's a lot to me. Cursive has a lot to do with right brain, left brain, and being able to use your artistic and your creative and your scientific mind all at the same time. I don't know. I mean, I spent a lot of years writing. That's what I went to school for. And I had this thing where if I was studying and I wrote it down, when I took a test, I can actually read it in my head. You know what I mean? Like, if I literally wrote it down, it was like I was taking a freeze-frame snapshot, and I would always remember it. So
wow, that's awesome.
So, I want to make sure she understands it. So anyway, she's like, Mom, we started learning cursive. We started A, B, C, and D, and it's really easy. And the teacher came out and asked us if we knew why it was important that we learn to write in cursive. And she says, I raised my hand and I told her it's because if we didn't know cursive, we couldn't read the Constitution. I was like,
oh my God! That's fucking fantastic!
Of course, that's what I've been telling her. I'm like, I know why they don't want you to learn cursive, because the Constitution. So anyway, the teacher says, yes, that is exactly right, and we are going to be learning the Constitution this year.
Is that not hysterical? Stick that up your ass. That's
not funny?
Yes. Oh my God! You should go shake hands with that teacher.
I know. Actually, I was thinking I should go meet her and say, hey.
Let's hope she doesn't get fired, because they don't teach the Constitution.
No, they don't. Not anymore. They don't teach cursive either. No. Oh, that's great, Jules. Wow, that was that just made my whole damn day right there.
I thought of you. You guys were offline, so I couldn't tell you when that happened. But yeah, I thought of you. I was like, oh my God. I'm like, keep that under your hat, though. Don't go mention it. She's like, oh no, I can't wait to talk about the Constitution. It's the set of rules that they made for us for this country. I'm like, oh no, here it comes.
That's cool. Oh my goodness. I bet you instantly she became the star pupil right then and there in that teacher's mind. You know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe she's like, uh-oh, troublemaker.
No. I mean, really, teachers love students like that. I mean, really, if you're any kind of teacher worth your salt, man, that's the kind of stuff you're looking for, is for them to make connections of what you're trying to teach them. Right. And, I mean, that's definitely making connections. She's definitely your mom's daughter.
Yeah, that's what my husband says every day. Just like, he's like, wow, you guys are exactly alike.
Yeah, but when you're dealing with her, when she does something where you're just like your father.
Yeah, no, actually, it isn't. No, it's like looking in a mirror and she drives me batshit crazy at times.
That's funny.
And then the power struggle, because we both have to be in charge.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you go, I guess.
I'm older, so I win.
Right.
When she gets older, she can win.
Yeah. When she moves out of the house, hey.
Start paying your own bills, yeah. Or you start cleaning the house for me. That would be a good one, too.
Show her how to clean.
Well, we got Nana. Nana got her a vacuum cleaner at Christmas last year. Per my suggestion.
You gotta show her how to use it.
Yeah, no, she's good at it. It's cute, too. It's one of those little stick vacuums, that's got the attachments.
Oh, yeah.
Just the little ones, but it's not heavy at all. So, it works. And we've been working on the room since we got back. After being away for 2 weeks, she was realizing that, like, how nice it is just not having all this stuff around.
Yeah.
That's something that I have to say, for being 8, she made that connection herself. I did not point that out, though. Mess drives me, and I mean, that is like my biggest red button issue, is slobbiness. Oh my God. Like, give me some medication or color me broken, because it's been a lot of years that I felt broken over this whole mess argument we have here. But she actually, we reorganized the room there and did all kinds of different stuff. And she was like, wow, I really like not having all this stuff. I said, nice. Well, when we get home, then that's our first order of business now, isn't it? Let's get rid of all the stuff we don't use.
Yes.
And let's not bring more stuff into the house that we don't need.
See, that's what my roommate is telling me exactly. So I've been up in the extra room going through stuff. It's that time.
Well, you'd be surprised at how much you really don't need.
Mm-hmm.
When I was just about ready to give birth, my my apartment, my house that I had before this, I had all these books and this big bookcase we had built and all these little, like, knick-knack thingies, and not, like, useless ones, like, really cool ones. Like, these awesome gargoyles and dragons and all great artwork that all of them had different meanings for me for, you know, this occurrence, or I was here, or I went there, or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
I used to travel a lot, and when I was getting ready to give birth, or maybe shortly thereafter, I packed every single one of those away. I wrapped them all in paper, I put them into boxes, and they went into the crawl space, and here it is 8 years later, and none of them have ever come out.
Right.
And though it saddens me, because I really loved my stuff. And people would be like, Jewel, it looks like a museum. Because it did. And all my big fossils. I mean, I used to do all this fossil hunting, and I have a couple pieces that probably some of the natural science museums would really like that I found myself.
Fossils are awesome, though.
They are. But, you know, they get broken in little dirty hands. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, like, my old jewelry box that was around from when I was young, that totally got decimated. My rock collection, all those are missing now. You know, so you have a choice. You either keep it out or you put it away. But here's the sad thing, and this kind of took me quite a while to kind of come to this conclusion once I got out of corporate America and just doing all of the stuff that I'm doing now for no pay and no, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, there's no carrot anymore, and not having money to be able to go out and do stuff or to buy anything that you wanted or that you needed. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of set me in this whole new mindset, because I've been working since I was 14. Okay, I've been on my own since I was 18. So it's been a mindset of, you know, you go to school, then you get a job, you know, the American quote-unquote dream that they always say. Then, you know, you work and you get a better job, then you get a job with some insurance, then you get a job with vacations, yay, you know, and you kind of worked your way up. And as you progressed along that ladder, along with that came being able to become a bigger and a bigger consumer of things. And you really get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses. And, you know, especially when I was in technology and I worked in distribution, I mean, we saw it before it even hit the streets. So, and we get these huge discounts. You know, they wanted us to buy it so then we could talk about it when people called in about it, you know?
Sure, absolutely.
But so I would always have the newest processor. I'd have the newest little gadget. And I mean, this was probably 15 plus years ago already. But, you know, it really was a mindset that you get sucked into. And getting rid of all that, shedding all of that has been very therapeutic, I think. You know, learning to not need any of these things that they've told us that we need.
Right. Absolutely. And it seems like people are going to be forced here to deal with that mindset anytime now. You know what I mean? And when you're forced to deal with that kind of a mindset, that's a whole different ballgame than choosing it on your own free will and realizing it as you're speaking about right now.
Right. And here's another thing I noticed about all of that is that it has caused humans, and maybe this was by design, to get this attachment to things.
Exactly.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you love your things. Some people love their things more than other people. Some people,
right? Try taking away some teenager's cell phone. Watch what happens.
There you go.
George Carlin did an awesome skit about things. Even when we go on vacation, we take our things. Everywhere we go, we take our things. You know?
Yeah.
And the sad fact of the matter is, once you're dead, somebody's selling them at a garage sale or shipping them off to Goodwill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it doesn't mean shit to them.
Right. Yeah, and they're all coming from China now, which is even more important. Thank you, 37001.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, when we were talking about volcanoes, I actually had a couple things I wanted to share way back when, but I didn't get there. So, you dropped me a link. Oh, I know. Let's go back really quick, because there was a whole progression of events. And then, of course, we're going to have to talk about good old Barry
Oh, I knew you were going to say that name.
And Cousin Bandar.
Cousin Bandar.
I made some comment to a post yesterday where I referred to Cousin Bandar. Okay. Hold on, let me just take a look at let's find the info on the solar flare. You know what happens too typically with solar flares, and I think Suspicious Observer speaks about this as well, is that we typically have larger earthquakes when these are earth-facing.
Yeah. That and the coronal holes, and coupled with the alignment of the planets.
Yeah, it was a 1.6.
X-flare.
X, yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm looking at all the data here, but there isn't. And then it was a 5, I believe a 5.2 maybe, was from the day before.
Yes, there was an M class, then an X class.
Mm-hmm. But there's not really a lot of info here. So here. Oh, hold on. Maybe we can add myself.
Good idea.
I need to turn off my speaker. So, can you believe it's Thursday already? I can't.
No, I mean, it's... Halloween's around the corner.
They already have Halloween stuff out in the dollar store.
Oh, I know. It's all around here.
I went to buy septic tank junk a couple weeks ago. That's what I get at the dollar store, is the septic tank enzyme that you dump in.
Oh.
And, the place was loaded with Halloween crap and Christmas. I'm like,
yeah, Christmas gets me.
Yeah,
Christmas
that just makes
August.
me puke.
Yeah, it is. It's fine. All right, here we go.
There's the things driven again, the commercialization.
Right.
Things. Consume candy.
Yeah, well, we don't really do candy here.
Good.
It all comes in, and then most of it gets funneled out.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here, we'll listen to the Suspicious Observer.
Yay.
CME Impact on 9/11. Oh. I think actually there's a bigger one. Wait, there's a different one. There's one even...
There was one from today.
Recent. Yeah, so I'm going to play that.
Yeah, play that instead, yeah.
Do I have volume, though?
Good morning, folks. In case you missed last night's upload, we're going to take a look at the X-class solar flare that ripped out of the center of the Earth-facing disk. This is directly Earth-facing. The ejecta clearly is heading this way, another Earth-directed CME. The halo eruption, pretty plain to see. There's no doubt about the trajectory of the burst. Quick note. It's too faint to see here, but if you go check the images yourself, you'll see the sun-diving comet, yet again before the flare. NASA's Enlil spiral focuses on the blast and shows the direct impact to the yellow dot, which is Earth.
Meanwhile,
NOAA's Enlil spiral has both the X-flare CME and the previous CME from the M4.5 flare. We've got 2 impacts expected in short order. The second eruption is expected to ramp the speed of the solar wind higher than we've seen it in months. Geomagnetic storms, and possibly major ones at that, could be a matter of hours away, with the first impact due to arrive in less than 24 hours. Now, folks, an X1 is not that big of an eruption. We've taken many of those and much larger, up to 10 times larger in the last 12 to 15 years. But it is the back-to-back nature of these CMEs that could be a bit more disruptive, and the fact that Earth's magnetosphere is weakening at a concerning rate. This impact will test Earth's magnetic shield like we haven't seen in a long time. If you'd asked me yesterday which sunspot was more likely to flare, I'd have said the south. The north lacked Delta-class complexity, but as we'll see here, Delta Schmelta, the entire grouping got into the mix as the triple negative umbras to the left worked in kind to surge around the positive core counterclockwise and then into the center. And boom. Southern sunspots remain in general decay this morning, but look at that Delta mixing hanging on at the backside. We also note a small group of new sunspots swinging in. Earth's shield is already experiencing instability before the CMEs arrive. Some higher density readings in orange are detected by the ACE satellite. It's the solar wind. This is accompanied by a level 1 radiation storm at Earth. Polar proton bombardment of a solar energetic particle surge due to the X-class flare. Sensitive metrics are shuddering as near-Earth space becomes destabilized with the plasma cloud on its way to Earth. Meanwhile, top weather story came out of Spain. A devastating amount of hail in a very short period of time caused some pretty bad flooding. This event was similar to the Arizona flooding event in that the amount that fell in such a short time is meteorologically baffling. Got 2 systems we're eyeing in the Atlantic. One of them could be a significant southeast threat if it gets organized. In the Pacific, we've got a named storm and 2 tag-alongs readying to shoot up the coastline once more. The power low is north of the Great Lakes, and the tornado-making convergence of the last few nights remains once more. I'm highly skeptical of NOAA's watch zones this evening. Flash flooding is possible there, but should also be the yellow alert. Severe weather along the northern portions of the convergence, so please check your local forecast if you live anywhere along that line tonight.
It includes upstate New York.
I think he goes in the volcanoes too here.
Okay, good.
Looks like Europe, hopefully going to have a bit of a lighter day today. Meanwhile, we've got much of the same flow to southeast Australia. Watches remain. Here are other storm zones and shots of our star to close. 6:35 a.m. Eastern Time, 3:35 a.m. here in Spokane, Washington. That's the news. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, well, the volcanoes must have been in the one I dropped you. So... Because the reason why I dropped you that one too is because Hecty was saying yesterday in the chat room that Nevada had gotten like flash rains and flooding and stuff. So that's another reason why I gave you that. So
yeah, Nevada and Arizona got it pretty bad.
Yes, and Arizona. Yep.
Yeah, lots of flooding.
Now, speaking about quote-unquote global warming, there was a story, actually there were 2 stories that came out that I put a couple dots together yesterday at how interesting this was. There's a Pig9 video that I'm pretty certain I put on my Fukushima Facts News, so give me 1 second, we'll find that. And it struck me as curious. You know, we've been looking at all these burgeoning diseases all over the place. Ones that, you know, even with this enterovirus, we read the other day that, you know, though it's not, I mean, it is rare, though it's not seen typically in the environment. They haven't had an outbreak since, like, the 1960s. I don't know if you guys heard me reading that.
Yeah.
But, so how strange it is, you know, of course, everything is baffling scientists. You heard them, too, about the storms, right? Just baffling meteorologists as to how this is happening. Well, in Japan, they announced a few days ago, and we had looked at this disease a few months back, dengue fever, which is another hemorrhagic fever that can be carried by mosquitoes. And dengue fever hits Japan. So here, let's just let me play this quickly. Because they don't really mention the important part in this little clip, I don't believe. But then I found a story to go along with it that kind of put all the dots together.
Normally this time of year, this public space in central Tokyo is full of people. Right now, it's deserted as Japan tackles its first reported domestic outbreak of dengue fever since the end of World War II, 1945, almost...
And we're going to stop for a second. They did mention it. Their first outbreak since 1945, okay?
Wow.
Wasn't that the year we did Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Yes.
Yeah, and wasn't that when we were messing around with things such as Plum Island?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, huh. I bet the outbreak in 1945 was an accidental dropping of a swarm of mosquitoes, too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, coincidentally centered around a radiation event.
Yeah. So, all right, hold on.
70 years ago, you can see Yoyogi Park in the center of the city, normally full of people, closed off right now. All of the dozens of victims came here to this park, and all of them were bitten by mosquitoes, which is why you now see signs up all over the place warning people to take precautions, wear long sleeves, long pants, don't show your skin, and definitely use a lot of this, bug spray. This is a hot seller all over Tokyo right now. People are doing whatever they can to avoid getting bitten by dengue-infected mosquitoes. Symptoms usually show up within a week. You can get a severe fever, headaches, body aches. Most of the time the symptoms are mild and people recover. Nobody has been killed here in Japan because of this outbreak, but there are cases when dengue can be deadly, and the weather conditions are not helping the situation. It's been a hot, humid summer, perfect weather for mosquitoes to grow and thrive and spread this disease, which is why Japan has been out spraying for mosquitoes, trying to control this outbreak before it gets any worse. Will Ripley, CNN, Tokyo.
So, we hear something like that, and it didn't strike me in the very beginning, but I was like, oh, here we go with another, quote-unquote pandemic of some kind, trying to get people scared. You're going to need some injections. But then I run across a New York Times story that made it even more interesting. Like it said, Japan has not had, they call it dengue, I call it dengag, whatever it's called, dengue fever since 1945. There is no immunization or specific treatment for dengue fever, just like Ebola. But did I or did I not see something in the pipeline for one of those pharmaceutical companies working on these new RNAi viruses and vaccines that they were working on cures to these hemorrhagic fevers? So here, we have all these people that, hey, they're all radioactive already. Well, let's just drop some mosquitoes on them. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then spray the atmosphere with, Monsanto mosquito spray.
Well, what's odd is that I remembered a few different stories about them genetically modifying mosquitoes to fight dengue fever. So I was like, huh. And I was trying to find the Pigmine video then from a few days ago as well, where they just released genetically modified mosquitoes into Brazil, I believe.
Oh, there we go. It's called connecting the dots.
Yeah. Here, this was a Telegraph article from 2012, July 10th. It says 2012. Scientists to breed GM mosquitoes to stop the spread of dengue fever. Huge numbers of genetically modified mosquitoes are to be bred by scientists in Brazil. Now, they just released them. Within the last week, they just released these mosquitoes in Brazil.
Wow.
To help stop the spread of dengue fever, an illness that has already struck nearly 500,000 people this year nationwide. And that was for the World Cup. They were threatening. They're like, oh, be afraid, be very afraid, because you're going to get sick, if you get bitten by a mosquito. So anyway, we have this outbreak in Japan. We have these GM mosquitoes that, if I can find the video, I'll play it, that they just are releasing to combat dengue. But this New York Times story really kind of, let me close a couple windows. Everything's kind of getting slow now. This New York Times article really kind of put the icing on the cake. It says, though there are no immunizations or specific treatment for dengue fever, there is, however, hope. A recent article by Andrew Pollack of the New York Times reported that an experimental vaccine, of course we knew that was coming, developed by Sanofi, proved to be about 60% effective in large clinical trials involving 20,000 children, and I read about this as well, ages 9 to 16 in several Latin American and Caribbean countries. Yes, let's start giving young children more experimental vaccines. The outbreak in Japan, and here, this is the red button, is yet another reminder of the dangerous consequences of global warming. At a recent conference in Geneva, the World Health Organization of Criminals warned of increases in dengue fever and other climate-sensitive diseases in unexpected parts of the world. Higher temperatures and humidity causes mosquitoes to live longer and enlarges the geographic area where they can spread disease. While only 9 countries experienced severe dengue before 1970. Now, this is like the third time in a week when reading about some of these freaky diseases that are spreading all over. I have read that from like the 1960s or 70s, we had absolutely almost no cases of these things. You know what I mean? It's been since the 60s and the 70s that it's gone exponential. So, wonder why that is also.
Yeah.
This disease, so while 9 countries experienced severe dengue before 1970, this disease is now endemic in more than 100 countries. Malaria and other mosquito-borne infection is also on the rise. Of course, that's where Bill and Melinda Gates has put their GM mosquitoes, is into combating malaria in Africa. Health authorities have closed and fumigated parks in Tokyo, so you know that if it's in Tokyo, we already know that Tokyo is very contaminated. Some of those documents that I was reading about yesterday that I dug up had a whole thing now after they said Tokyo was safe. Oh, no, it wasn't. And we knew it wasn't. I mean, we had local people in Tokyo that were putting meters near, like, rain puddles, and the meters were going off the charts. So
I bet.
It was a no-brainer. But they're fumigating parks in Tokyo where infected mosquitoes were found, and now here is the other kicker, and I just love the way this guy says it. Perhaps, too, Japan will now be inspired to review and strengthen its policies on global warming. Do you hear what I just read?
Unfreaking believable.
Japan will be inspired to review and strengthen its policies on global warming with a United Nations conference on climate change only weeks away. An ambitious commitment by the Japanese government to reduce emissions of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases would be decidedly welcome.
Wow.
Now, was that not a threat?
I would say so.
I was like, holy shit, are they threatening Japan with genetically modified little flying disease makers?
Yeah, apparently so.
And that sure
maybe
as
an
hell...
earthquake.
Or an earthquake, exactly, with the X-flare that's incoming. Whoops! I mean, that's how I read that. I was like, oh my god, they literally are saying to Japan, play nice, or guess what? We haven't dropped this... Yeah, we haven't dropped this shit on you since 1945, and we can do it again!
Oh, wow. That is, I mean, seriously. That's... Oh my god. I don't know. That's. I think there's some criminals going on around this WHO.
They're so blatant anymore.
They are. They just don't care.
They don't. I want to see really quick too if I can find if I knew how to spell mosquitoes.
That was good, Jules. Right on.
Well, it just caught me as I was breezing through, but I was like, "Wow! If I were Japan, I'd be a little pissed."
I'd be raging pissed. Thing is that dengue fever, it's attacking them, and they're already immunocompromised from all the radiation. So that's why that's why they're freaking out. And who knows? That could have just been released by some random tourist. You know what I mean?
Yeah, random tourist or ISIS.
Yeah,
you see now? Like, I have been waiting for this shit since day one, but Pigmine posted, I think it was late last night in the uploads. Let me find in here really quick that now they are saying that ISIS could potentially come at us with a biological attack.
Oh.
I mean, come on, really?
They've already released the biologicals in freaking Sierra Leone. I mean, and they're obviously the dengue. They're already releasing biologicals in Japan. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Well, and all over here.
Yes.
And like, oops, the vial sitting on top of the filing cabinet. We forgot.
Yeah, and the open borders with the illegals bringing in antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis. Let's not forget that. So, yeah.
Oh, let me see here. I must have missed these last few uploads. God, I hate when I think that I'm like all caught up, and then I'm not. All right, it was only a couple. So here, let me connect one more time. So as on the heels of Barry announcing in his address to the American people his plans on bombing Syria, did you see that?
Yeah. Yes, made me freaking want to puke.
Yeah, so right on the eve of 9/11, he finally gets to tell us that we're going to go in and start bombing Syria after 2 or 3 years of chomping at the bit trying to get our grubby hands in there. Russia comes out at the same time, and they decide they're going to start testing their new intercontinental ballistic missile that could carry up to 10 nuclear warheads.
Oh, that's nice.
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
and you know that whole Syria thing is a proxy war between the United States and Russia.
That's correct.
But let's see. We're going to find Brother Barry.
Because that's why we backed off for the most part last year when he was getting ready to go into Syria and John Kerry's running around saying, Syria, we're going to blast you, because Russia stepped in and said, and then we backed off.
Putin and his equivalent of the Secretary of State, I can't remember his name. Yeah, something of. I used to know his name. We haven't talked about him in a while.
Oh, that's
funny. They helped broker that peace treaty, right? Where they were getting rid of all the chemical weapons. They were all being disabled, blah, blah, blah. And, the last I saw, actually, those weapons were just about all gone now. Those chemical weapons. They destroyed them off the coast. Yeah. But, all right, here, let's listen to Cousin Barry. Maybe.
So tonight, with a new Iraqi government in place and following consultations with allies abroad and Congress at home, I can announce that America will lead a broad coalition to roll back this terrorist threat. Our objective is clear. We will degrade and ultimately destroy ISIL through a comprehensive and sustained counterterrorism strategy. First, we will conduct a systematic campaign of airstrikes against these terrorists. Working with the Iraqi government, we will expand our efforts beyond protecting our own people and humanitarian missions so that we're hitting ISIL targets as Iraqi forces go on offense. Moreover, I've made it clear that we will hunt down terrorists who threaten our country wherever they are. That means I will not hesitate to take action against ISIL in Syria as well as Iraq. This is a core principle of my presidency. If you threaten America, you will find no safe haven.
So I guess that's it. If you threaten America, you will find no safe haven. I see Nick Burnaby yesterday on the tails of this post an Onion article. For those of you who don't know who the Onion is.
I love Onion.
Yes. I had some very close friends and family who worked there for quite a number of years. The Onion is a satirical paper, but most recently some of their articles have just been like retellings of the news that are supposed to be satirical, but it's the reality of the situation that makes them so ridiculous because it really isn't satire. So on the tails of that little speech, Nick posts this Onion article from yesterday titled, Obama Vows to Split ISIS into Dozens of Extremist Splinter Groups. And I just want to read this because, wow, is this so true? This pretty much is what he said. Declaring that terrorist organizations' actions can no longer be ignored, President Obama vowed Wednesday that the United States would use precision airstrikes for as long as needed to ensure that ISIS is divided into dozens of extremist splinter groups. ISIS poses a significant threat to the U.S. interests both overseas and at home, and that is why we are committed to a limited military engagement that will fracture the terrorist network's leadership and consequently create a myriad of smaller cells, each with its own violent radical agenda, said Obama. during a primetime address to the nation, stressing that any campaign to transform the group into a patchwork of volatile jihadist factions will not be performed unilaterally, but rather with the support and cooperation of key allies in the region. I mean, that's pretty much what they're going to do, too, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
Here, let me actually read just the end of this, because then it even takes a little bit further. Quote, I have already discussed this plan with congressional leaders, and I have no doubt that our efforts will eventually replace this militant organization with many smaller but equally determined groups bent on using extreme brutality to impose fundamentalistic Islamic rule. It will not happen overnight, but I can assure the American public that in time, this group will be defeated, allowing us to focus our attention on the countless threats to homeland security posed by its many immediate successors. Obama added that while the ISIS campaign will not involve American boots on the ground, he reserves the right to deploy troops should one or more of the spin-off cells grow to be even more powerful. Which, of course, we read about Al-Qaeda and how Al-Qaeda is now no longer in favor. Now it is ISIL. ISIS is. And now, oops, I just dropped the wrong movie. I don't know why my copy-paste isn't working here. That was the movie on quantum theory that I just dropped in the chat that we talked about earlier. There. No, it happened again. Damn it. I lost my point now. I was distracted. Damn it.
Uh-oh.
Well, all the smaller cells like Al-Qaeda isn't, anything anymore. Now it's ISIS. Now they're going to break that up.
They're going to break Iraq up into three sections anyway. They got to have their own little terrorist cells in each section.
Well, and you also remember we had Al-Shabaab, Boko Haram, all these other guys jumping into the fray. There was there's one that Brandon refers to quite often that I don't remember what they were called. He did an article, too, by the way, yesterday. So, I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought. So we got intercontinental ballistic missiles that can carry 10 nuclear warheads from Russia being tested. We got Barry saying we're going into Syria. We got dengue fever. We got Ebola. Right? Ebola is now raging. Why is our containment not working? One of the videos I was watching yesterday that did a little bit of a viralness had said something about the Ebola containment breach that they had in Liberia, I believe, was from people breaking out of quarantine to get food.
Yeah, wandering it down the shops and stuff. Yeah, not feeding them.
Yep, Zori and I talked about that.
So, I mean, are they, starving in the quarantine camps?
Yes.
Holy shit!
That's
like a nightmare movie.
It is. I think they're figuring that, dying of thirst and starvation is a quicker way to go, or maybe not quicker way, but better way than just bleeding out. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy. So then here we have Homeland Security Chief. This is the new dude, which I don't even know his name. Who took over for Manet?
I can't remember.
It's a dude, yeah. I remember we looked at him when he first got placed into office, and he had all kinds of ties. But here, he is now warning of lone wolf attacks in the U.S. Oh, God, yes. And remember, everyone can be Al-Qaeda or Al-Shabaab or ISIS. And I have no sound.
We're tracking these individuals. Several have been arrested by the FBI who have attempted to leave this country to take up the fight in Syria. And with our allies overseas, we've determined to know who these people are, investigate them, prosecute them where appropriate. What we look at are those who have gone or who have attempted to go That number is something in excess of 100.
The interviewer has no voice, so I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
Yeah, none of her questions are playing, but he's talking.
Well, they're saying that a lot of the people from the UK are going and joining ISIS, which that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and then they're going back to the UK for like debriefing, terrorist debriefings. Apparently, they're engaging in the UK.
Yeah, or something. I mean, they want us to believe that terrorists now are just crawling out of the woodwork everywhere. And yes, Ozzy, they are all just the same group. I mean, and they're all manufactured by us. We're manufacturing our own groups that then we decide that we have to fight. You know?
Right.
The whole problem, reaction, solution. So here, now we have university-educated individuals that are also going to be implicated. I caught this one last night. This is when I was talking about the pandemics.
After killing thousands of Iraqis and Syrians and beheading 2 Americans, could ISIS be planning something bigger? A U.S. intelligence official tells CNN they're aware of specific details on a laptop captured from an ISIS hideout in northern Syria. According to Foreign Policy magazine, which accessed the laptop and first reported on it, the computer...
Foreign Policy magazine? Come on, is that not like a Department of State publication?
Yeah, as well as the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah. Okay, so according to them...
The computer has documents on how to carry out a mass attack. Among those documents, how to make biological weapons, even how to weaponize the bubonic plague.
If they got the dispersal method right, can it wipe out whole city blocks?
It can wipe out entire cities if they're using a contagious agent that is microencapsulated in that right particle size. Yes.
According to Foreign Policy, one of the documents on biological weapons says, quote, use small grenades with the virus and throw them in closed areas like metros, soccer stadiums, or entertainment centers.
Yeah, let's we tell everyone.
Video showing how to make a lesson. The laptop was the property of a jihadist labeled Mohammed S., who joined ISIS after studying at 2 universities in Tunisia.
They confirmed that the guy studied their physics and chemistry and that he left in 2011 and they don't know where he went.
What is interesting about this case is this guy had a science background. I mean, he wasn't just any old schmo looking into this. Because what you're really concerned about is a scientist really kind of adopting these jihadi ideals.
Yeah, what you're really concerned about are the smart people waking up.
Yeah.
If you go to college, you are a suspect.
Yeah,
if
that's pretty much what they're saying. He took chemistry and physics. And so now all of a sudden, he must, this is his laptop and I mean, maybe he is, maybe he isn't, who knows? But I mean, this is a witch hunt. That we've seen it happen in Salem, Massachusetts. That's what's going on right now.
I mean, really, Muhammad S.? Really? Come on.
Yeah, okay.
Muhammad S.
Stories are getting wilder and wilder.
They are.
They sure are.
So
they're calling this the laptop of doom, by the way.
Oh, my God.
Sounds like a movie title.
So the dengue fever, the Ebola,
the bubonic plague.
Oh,
Did we just see that kind of crop up a couple places?
Yes.
Yeah, so, all right, here, hold on.
But a U.S. intelligence official says nothing about these documents raises concerns about ISIS's actual capability to make biological weapons. Weapons expert Amy Smithson says the technological hurdles are huge. Getting lethal strains, converting them to droplets that people would breathe in, eat, or drink, and getting them through sprayers or other delivery systems without killing the organisms could well be beyond the reach of ISIS.
For each type of biological warfare agent, whether it's anthrax, botulinum toxin, smallpox, whatever, each one of these agents behaves differently in a fermenter, differently going through a sprayer, different things you're going to need to do to microencapsulate them. So this is not like shake and bake cooking.
Well, that's a good thing. But But you know what? I bet you some of those DARPA scientists will be able to help them out.
I think so too. maybe a couple of Bill Gates' buddies. You know
well, yeah, and we're gonna look at Bill Gates because now I told you they're throwing some money into the ring for Ebola to boot.
Mm-hmm.
So here, there's about another minute left on this. But yeah, good thing it's not Shake and Bake Chicken, huh?
Hold on, Betty Crocker.
Yeah.
Easy bake oven.
Yeah, there you go, with a light bulb. All right, here we go.
Now, as difficult as it may be to go from an idea hatched on a document on a laptop to making an actual biological weapon, the concern now is that ISIS has captured some major cities like Mosul and Raqqa, cities with universities, and that the group may now have access to some sophisticated labs, but still, Wolf, getting access to a lab and actually weaponizing a plague, two different things.
But they do already have one sophisticated facility that they've captured, right?
They have captured a huge chemical weapons facility, a place called Al-Muthana, northwest of Baghdad. That is Saddam Hussein's former chemical weapons program, the home of the chemical weapons program that he...
Wait, did they not find chemical weapons when we went into Iraq?
I thought so, yeah.
Hussein was there.
That's why I'm laughing. I'm just like, this shit is straight out of a freaking, Hollywood fucking script, man.
This, I gotta tell you, people sometimes don't get why we post mainstream clips, and I get some nasty comments sometimes about spreading propaganda, and I used to think the same thing, but these clips, man, what they do is they isolate the bullshit.
Yeah,
exactly.
When you take the commentary out of there,
right?
You know what I mean, and you just have the clip, you can deduce a whole shitload of truth out of that if you know how to do it and what to look for.
Right, and a whole shitload of bullshit too.
Yeah, exactly.
That has all been put out there before.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, these are all the talking points that all of your unaware friends and family are yapping and believing. You need to know what bullshit they're filling their head with.
Yeah, that whole damn story was full of total shit.
I thought they didn't find any weapons of mass destruction when we went in. No, they didn't.
And there was no chemical weapons dump either. And so, unless it was run by, the CIA, and, look, the CIA just happens to give it to ISIL. Oh!
Well, I had read something back a few years ago when Brandon and Madison were covering the whole original Syria drum beating where we wanted to go in, and it was humanitarian. It was because they're using chemical weapons on their people. And there were a few stories that had talked about that they were manufacturing the weapons in Iraq and then bringing them into Syria. I do distinctly remember that, but I guess I never questioned where were they manufacturing them. But this guy specifically said where Saddam Hussein had his chemical weapons manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
Hey, wait, I'm going to back that up just a minute.
No, I think he didn't say the chemical weapons. I think he said the biological, I don't know, whatever.
Here, wait, I'll play that little section again.
Yeah.
A sophisticated facility that they've captured, right?
They have captured a huge chemical weapons facility, a place called Al-Muthana, northwest of Baghdad. That is Saddam Hussein's former chemical weapons program, the home of the chemical weapons program that he had. Amy Smithson says there were a couple of bunkers left over there that had some excess stockpiles. It's not...
Oh, they just mysteriously finally found the chemical weapons.
We've been in there for 10 years, and we didn't take out the dangerous shit. What the fuck?
Oh, my God.
I'm glad you played that again. What?
All right, here, wait, there's another 12 seconds. Oh, my God. This is nuts. All right.
My stomach is hurting from laughing.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Clear what ISIS may have done with them. U.S. officials have said, however, that there were no intact chemical weapons there, and it would be difficult to use some of that stuff on the battlefield. But it did have material like sarin stored there.
Oh, we had sarin!
For 10 years, it was under our control!
And now ISIS has it.
And we just left it there for the whoopsie!
And ISIS has it now. Whoops. Just like the Toyota trucks. Oh, my God. So here's what caught me about all of this. I've been telling you guys about the FEMA class I took 8 years ago and all the things that we learned about. And one of the other things that we learned about was pandemics, biological attack, and anthrax was the big one they were talking about. But we had the terrorists sneaking across the border dressed as illegals. Right?
Yeah.
We had, of course, we were all still afraid of the planes, and here we are on the eve of 9/11. We had biological attacks. We had nuclear attacks. Oh, they were going to have suitcase nukes. And one of the other things was they had told us that the terrorists were going to come after our children because that's where they can strike fear into the hearts of all Americans. And Prepper Chick messaged me yesterday about now some reported, they're talking about where reported attacks could happen, and they're talking about schools.
Oh, they target schools like nobody's business.
Mm-hmm. She was talking about them, and I'll have to go to her page and see if I can find the story. Them taking a school hostage, and then when the alert goes out to the parents and the parents all race to the school, then they start taking out cars and causing massive chaos and whatever you call it, traffic jams and whatever, and then who knows what they're thinking they're going to do.
And this will be allowed to happen.
Mm-hmm. It sure will.
Yeah.
Because guess what, people? Especially if they get you in the knees, that's going to take you down to where you're begging them to save you.
That's what they want.
Ebola would be another great one, like I said. Once you get Ebola and you see your friends and family member bleeding out from every orifice, you better believe that if they tell you they have some sort of secret serum that's going to cure it, you're going to line up for it.
Yeah.
Here, I want to scroll back now for a second. So then on the heels of all this, here comes another story. Why isn't Ebola containment working?
I wonder.
As internationally, no flights are shut down.
Ebola is spiraling out of control in West Africa, but health officials say they know how to stop it. So what's going on? The answer is pretty simple. Here's the way it's supposed to work. For every Ebola patient, healthcare workers are supposed to keep track of every single person who's had close contact with them. If one of these contacts gets sick, he's supposed to be isolated. Then all of his contacts are followed until there are no more sick patients. It's called contact tracing, and it's pretty simple, but it's powerful. It helped put a stop to SARS and to smallpox. But in many parts of West Africa, contact tracing is breaking down. These slums are a big reason why. In many parts of West Africa, streets have no names, people have no addresses, there may not be maps. That means some contacts never get found. Here's why that's such a problem. A missed contact can spread Ebola to other contacts, and they'll be missed too. That's why the CDC says even one missed contact can keep the outbreak going. By now in West Africa, there are entire chains of transmission that are invisible. The computer databases that keep track of all these cases and contacts, often they're not in such great shape. One disease detective from the CDC working in Sierra Leone, she says the database there was in shambles. The CDC has designed special software to keep track of these cases and these contacts, and they're trying to implement it in West Africa, but even that hasn't gone smoothly. All of this is starting to add up, and it has the World Health Organization really concerned.
Oh boy. Really concerned.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So concerned they
flights are still allowed to fly everywhere.
Yeah, they're gonna make it spread before they get really concerned.
Well, I think it had to get bad enough so they could say that it's spreading like wildfire. I mean, the headlines are just unbelievable. And then good old Billy Gates this is the last one I'm going to play. Good old Billy Gates and Melinda are now in the foray. I know that there's money to be made. Good investment. Oh, except I disconnected myself. I do that just because I can't stand that echo. All right, here we go. Ebola
of private funding will target the Ebola outbreak in West Africa. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation announced today it will spend $50 million on the effort. That's in addition to $10 million already committed. The new money will go to the United Nations and other international groups to buy supplies and develop vaccines and therapies.
How great is that? So good, Bill and Melinda. You know what? I'm sure that we're going to have some Ebola vaccine injecting mosquitoes here shortly.
Oh no, that's right.
So I don't know, guys. You want to talk about 9/11 at all? I don't know if I really have a lot to say about that. All evening tonight, we're going to have people dealing with 9/11.
Yeah, so
I believe most of the shows are going to be making that their focal point.
Yeah.
Now, didn't they cure that doctor they brought back?
They just brought another one back. They brought a fourth one in right now.
But they're declaring them cured, right?
Well, they declared the first two, quote-unquote, cured. I was talking about this the other day because here's my thing. The one individual, I had been reading about that, and they said that they showed 2 clean blood tests, so they let them out. Now,
okay, but... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was going to say, just in any outbreak movie or book that I've ever read, especially if it's some, like, unknown and if you're doing some sort of experimental treatment, the CDC typically keeps you locked in, like, quarantine with airlocks and anti-rooms for months on end to study you afterwards.
And yet they release this guy. Why aren't they sending this cure to Africa?
Well, they were sending some of it to Africa. They sent some CDC individuals, but you have to remember that a lot of this is patented, right? It's all owned by Big Pharma. This is this whole treatment with Big Pharma, Big Tobacco, military-industrial complex, and DARPA are all involved, as well as Monsanto. So, you know, they're not going to let that get out of the bag. But for some of the countries that want to play ball, what they have allowed is that their doctor or scientist can be shipped back and then they'll treat them with this experimental treatment. But I don't think anyone outside of being returned to the United States has fared too well.
Right.
Probably by design, too.
Yeah, yes.
You know, because we need to be the ones that have the cure for...
We need to come to the rescue.
The scourge, yes.
U.S. to the rescue. When we're the ones who frickin' put it in there in the first place.
This is so sick.
It is sick. And so Shit at the Fan Plan released a story the other day by Mark Salvo video. Model shows how Ebola will spread. Quote, it only takes one infected individual to make it through an airport checkpoint. That's all it does take. I mean, Typhoid Mary, if you've ever paid attention to pandemic and read about pandemics throughout your youth, you would know that, right?
And we have no restrictions at all on our flights. None.
Nope.
Yeah, we have no restriction on the border either.
Nope.
And I've seen in some, I heard in some newscasts or something, they just finally said, and they're starting to think that ISIS might come across the southern border. Duh.
Yeah, total duh.
They told us that in 2006.
Yeah.
They literally said that the terrorists were going to come across the border dressed as illegal Mexicans.
Right, and now we have the borders wide open. That makes sense. Doesn't anybody have a brain out there anymore?
Well, you know, the other thing that they were talking about in that class was that they were working on that universal flu vaccine. Well, the universal flu vaccine, they found a bunch of documents. Guess what? It's this RNAi technology.
Oh, there you go.
You know, so they just give you a marker for a protein for flu, but it will cover then all these other versions of flu, so you don't have to do the yearly flu vaccination, or they can produce it quickly by using that GM tobacco that they're using to express these whatever they're called, antigens that then they're sucking, I don't know, putting into mice and then sucking out the mouse DNA and then inserting human DNA. It's a pretty sick process.
Yeah. Oh my god.
This, I don't know if this little clip here in this story has any sound to it. It just shows a global map of where Ebola is and where it could spread. But I had talked about yesterday, the day before, that I had seen a couple different reports now where they've predicted anywhere from 20,000 to 100,000 infections, excuse me, for Ebola by December of this year.
That's exponential.
That is exponential. And there was another report, too. I had seen maybe 10 or so doctors had died, but there was a story that came out that I played the clip the other day. Over 140 doctors have died.
Whoa.
That's
See,
a much bigger number.
And the thing is, we know that these WHO freaking CDC numbers that they're throwing out are not accurate. The numbers are obviously much higher.
Well, and Libby Haleve had shown with some of the Fukushima stuff, she had a couple whistleblowers that came out about the World Health Organization. She actually flew to Geneva to interview the one woman, and she basically said they are the most evil organization on the planet, and don't think that they're looking out for our best interests, because they are not.
No, correct. They haven't been for a long, long time.
Mm-mm.
They're just helping forward the agenda.
Yeah, and they're threatening Japan now.
Yes, with Dengue. Here, let me see if there's any sound to this, or if this is just a map that shows spreading. Ebola may spread, a cascade of infections starting in Africa. MIT Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence Laboratory Modeling. And it's showing it starting in Africa, and it is blooming like a fungus. Whoa! And then it gets up into the Middle East and the UK, then in India, then in the United States, South America, China. Oh, look at that. This is just so reassuring. Yeah, I mean, this is big shit. And then we'll all just have to get their vaccine. And like I said before, the R&D line item for any of those companies that thought it was going to cost them $10 million this year to be testing their newfangled vaccines, they won't have to worry about that.
Yep, that's not at
all. Right now, 2,000 people worldwide are dead. The virus is spreading, and the mortality rate is anywhere from between 50 to 90%. They were aiming for 90.
Yeah, they were.
So, all right, let's get off of that.
Well, I wonder how much starving these people over there while they're in quarantine is helping their numbers.
Yeah, sorry, that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Take away their ability to hydrate. That's one of the things that this Frontline documentary said. In the documentary, they said that it's possible to get over Ebola if you are able to keep yourself hydrated, because the vomiting and the fluids coming out your rear end, it definitely contributes to dehydration there. But if you're able to keep stuff down for any length of time, then that helps. That's where the 50%, survival rate can come into play.
Here's one more clip. CDC says window, quote unquote, window is closing to stop Ebola. So they're setting it all up.
Yes, they are.
Sanjay Gupta. Here he comes. They're rolling him out.
He's the head of the USAID. He's also, I think, fair to say, the new man in charge of the United States Ebola response. Welcome back to the program, Raj.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thanks for having me.
Let me just start off by asking a broader question. What is the United States obligation in something like this, and how and when does that get determined?
The United States obligation is actually quite clear. It's to mount and to help support an international effort to help our Liberian colleagues get over this Ebola crisis. And Dr. Frieden is exactly right to point out, with 3,500 cases and 1,900 deaths, this is an urgent epidemic that demands an urgent and at-scale response. And we have a clear strategy that we're pursuing together with international partners to make sure that that happens.
I was there in April in Guinea, near where this all started, and and that was just a few weeks after the first diagnosed cases. Even within that time, about a week, 10 days, the case rate tripled at that time. MSF, Doctors Without Borders, at that time, several months ago, were saying this is already out of control. They couldn't keep up. They couldn't follow contacts, for example, to try and prevent the outbreak from spreading. Are we late? I mean, what happened here, Raj? So many times in the past we've been able to control this. Did something get missed?
Well, two things. First, since March, we've had nearly 100 U.S. personnel, including experts from the Centers for Disease Control, disaster responders, on the ground helping countries in West Africa. We've, in fact, delivered more than 100,000 personal protective equipment kits, trained providers on how to use them, more than doubled the laboratory and diagnostic capacity on the ground, which is where a lot of this data comes from. But it is essential to understand the context. And in an environment where there effectively is not a proper functioning higher order healthcare system, there simply has not been nearly enough treatment available for people with Ebola, which is why we're now pursuing a strategy of getting 1,000 beds set up in Liberia to treat patients with Ebola. And yesterday we noted an increase of our investment of $75 million additional dollars to help make sure that is a well-resourced, at-scale, and effective response.
You mentioned some of the specifics of the dollar amount, the number of beds that will be created as a result of that. What about the infrastructure overall? These problems that you describe are not going to go away, right? This is a response to an outbreak right now. We know there's another outbreak happening in Congo, a different strain of Ebola. These happen all the time. Why won't each outbreak in the future be like this now? Is this the way outbreaks are going to be?
This should not be the way outbreaks are going to be handled. In fact, that's why we're putting in place a strategy that will tamp this down in West Africa. The strategy has three essential components. One is quickly scale up treatment, 1,000 beds, including getting critical care personnel to go to Liberia to be part of the response. If there are critical care personnel that want to volunteer or be part of this effort, they can go to usaid.gov and register, and we're going to ensure that they have higher order medical care available in Liberia and access to medical evacuation should that be necessary. Second, there will be is a strong prevention approach. So we've already delivered 5,000 WHO-certified body bags, but we're training teams throughout Liberia to conduct dignified burial because so much of the transmission is happening when they're handling bodies of the deceased. And third, we're working on the broader societal issues. For example, we've already delivered tons of food items to families of affected communities and to the hospitals themselves so patients get adequate food.
Dr. Raj Shah, thank you so much for joining us.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. We're talking, I mean, you hear him talking about this now as like this humanitarian crisis, right? So we're delivering body bags and food. And I had seen some original stories under, it might have even been under the graphic content tab for Pigmine's website, where there were literally bodies littering the streets in Liberia.
Yeah.
And just bodies, bloodied bodies everywhere. And of course that can't be good. I mean, isn't that what happened during the bubonic plague? Isn't that how it spread so badly? So, I mean, I definitely understand you want to kind of contain that, but this clip that we heard yesterday, and we'll just listen to the first minute or two of this again, this, I think he was a doctor out of Michigan, came out, and he's absolutely 100% right. I mean, as we see the march of terror spread from the Middle East to the northern part of Africa, right, for Al-Qaeda, and then we had Boko Haram, and now, of course, we have ISIS spinning all over the place. We got Libya's in absolute turmoil. We have drone bases in 3 or 4 key locations now across Africa. We have boots on the ground. There's U.S. troops. There's French troops, right, trying to get control of things. There's all this crazy shit going on. So right in the middle of all this, you heard Gupta say, I was there in April, shortly after this outbreak just started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So here, let's listen to what this doctor had to say.
I believe this is just another means for deeper United States military and intelligence penetration of the African continent. Already, the United States has a military presence in Liberia, in Sierra Leone as well, as in the West African state of Nigeria,
which are all places, of course, that they're having massive Ebola outbreaks.
Yep.
Yeah, I am super glad you played that again.
Yeah. Here, a little bit more.
3 of which have been, to a lesser or greater degree, been impacted by the epidemic of the Ebola virus disease. The only way in which this disease can be tackled is through the proliferation of medical personnel, trained doctors, nurses,
more boots on the ground. You know what I mean? A military establishment. Like, it almost sounds like they're all talking off the same song sheet here.
Martial law.
Yeah, we need to get in there. We need to get people on the ground. We need to, like... And, I mean, granted, I'm sure it's horrific over there right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is something that I am pretty certain we created.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, look at, we hold the patent on Ebola.
That's right.
Well, and also, I saw someone in chat talking about, how the CDC came out with this miraculous vaccine. That's the RNAi stuff I've been talking about. The stuff that actually gets in and manipulates your DNA, that's using genetic modification 2.0, people. This is stuff that you do not want in your body. This is generation 1.0 as to how to manipulate your DNA at a core level. And once that stuff gets into you, there's no telling what they're going to be able to do. It actually, RNAi stands for RNA interference, and it allows them to switch genes on and off.
Now that's so scary.
It's very scary. And it should be. And with some of these new technologies that we talked about many times, but yesterday I read a story about this more self-assembling nanotech, at an atomic level. I mean, they could make mini machines that they insert into every single one of us, and we never even know it.
Yeah, with bubonic weaponized. Yeah, with weaponized bubonic plague programmed right into it.
Well, I mean, I mentioned as well some of my research that I did into the DARPA mind control experiments. They were using mRNA to be able to turn the bad memories from PTSD patients off.
Yep.
Well, that's the same technology. So all of a sudden, now you get this injection and they can wipe out all your bad memories about bad shit the government did.
That's right.
And put in memories that they want.
Yeah, exactly. With a flash of light. Poof. That comes with your new Jobo home helper robot coming 2015 to a shelf near you.
That's right.
Yeah, I've seen that. Jeez.
I mean, it's pretty nuts, but there definitely is this line of connecting dots that when you look at it, I mean, they don't really seem like they're all related events, but I think they are. I definitely think they are.
I emphatically agree.
So I don't know. Where do we go from here? I think I'm done. We got that enterovirus too that's spreading. I saw now 12 or 15 states.
What?
The enterovirus that the kids are getting.
The respiratory thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
12 or 15.
Well, kids get sick every year when they start school.
That's very true. But if they decided that there was going to be some kind of biological attack against our kids.
There you go.
Didn't we mention that? Right? So now we're going to get us all afraid that our kids are going to get sick and this Ebola thing. Oh, my God. All you anti-vaxxer parents out there, you're bad.
Right, and if you don't get your kids inoculated, it's going to endanger mine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. Can you imagine that mindset with neighbors? Oh, boy.
It's going to turn neighbor against neighbor for certain.
Yes. Unequivocally so. That you can see where all this is going, and it's not a pretty freaking picture.
Yeah,
not at all.
It's not a pretty picture at all. And how do you combat that?
Right, because people are just so, they're going to, at that point, like you were saying, they're going to be so, like, please help us, begging, and they'll be willing to just step all over your neighbors just to be first ones to get that shot.
Well, and that's one of the ways that they got us to take all these classes. That was one of the things that they told us, is by helping the first responders, you and your family were going to be the first ones to get any type of prophylactic. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, to protect yourselves.
To protect you and your family, because we can't have you worrying about your family in a crisis if you're supposed to be helping us.
Interesting. See how there's that big ass carrot in the stick.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Wow. Oh my God. And what do they do when they're done with you after you've helped them?
Yeah, they chuck you off the bridge.
That's right, and throw you on the top of the heap.
Yeah, and you became Experiment 1.0 to see if you grew an arm out of your forehead.
Right.
Oh.
Not falling for that one. What I find interesting, too, is they don't send me emails anymore, so either they're on to me. I don't know what happened. I was even doing their website for them, and I haven't heard a peep in years.
Wow.
So either the group disbanded or they're on to me. They figured out who I was.
Well, was there anyone else taking the class that you knew personally, or just...
No, it was just people in the community. And then the guy that was running it was... I don't think he was commander, but he was one of the upper-level police officials in my local police department. And he then went to FBI school. So I'm sure when he went to FBI school, my name came up on a list. They probably said, "Oh, here, let's punch in your local area in training, and see how many domestic terrorists you have in your local neighborhood." And there's my name, like top of the list, right? They're like, "Oh, we need to remove her from the mailing list." It's weird. I have not gotten an email in years from them, and. I mean, like I said, I was doing their website, and I was one of 7 core people that had been part of the infrastructure for getting the school all set up in the event of a pandemic. I was communications manager, so.
Well, it seems like they'd have follow-up classes too as dangers change.
Yeah, you'd think, or at least drills or something.
You're still on the list, Jules. It's just not that list.
Yeah, I'm on the other list now.
Yeah.
They called me an infiltrator. But see, back then I wasn't awake. I ate all that shit right up.
Sure. Well, hey, maybe one day you'll get the call out of the blue from them. Hey, we found you on this list.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually in the database too. They had us all sign up with the county database for first responders. That they would call up.
You're still there though, in some capacity. You got to be.
I guess, but you'd think that I'd be getting at least one email.
Yeah, that's bizarre, huh?
Yeah, it used to be called what? Civil Defense?
Civil Defense, yeah.
Way back, yeah. And then this program was one in the last days of Bush where they were trying to still amp up the 9/11 fear, where they had dedicated money to FEMA based upon it was the CERT program, which I believe started out of Los Angeles. The fire departments began it, but it was very well documented. It had a whole command and control process to it, and it was for fighting fires. But they expanded it then nationally to include all kinds of emergencies in the event that first responders couldn't respond to a large catastrophe. I think Katrina had happened, and, it was post 9/11, and so that's kind of what that was all about.
Well, back in the day, I happen to know this because my grandparents were both in the civil defense. And what they would do is they were actually issued old police uniforms and, the police hat with the badge in the front, and it said civil defense on the badge. And it was a cop hat, one of those old-fashioned cop hats they used to wear. And,
I remember that.
Yeah, and that's what, and you ran around looking like a cop, really, with civil defense on your uniform, and it was a standard issue.
They had drills all the time.
All the time, yeah. They had to do stuff. I think I don't know what the frequency was, but they were.
Yeah, they did. They used to have their civil defense radio frequency as well.
Yeah, their whole little setup and their whole little communications. Now all that's gone. in favor of the technological preference,
Well, I was even talking the other day about how in the 50s they had the public service announcements from Civil Defense for nuclear fallout. And they used to educate the public and show them what to do with livestock, show them how to stay out of fallout, how to get it off yourself.
Yeah.
In the event of a nuclear catastrophe, a war or whatever. And
crawl under your desk.
Yeah, that was pretty much it, too.
Duck and cover. But all the people that learn that stuff are all extremely elderly, and, most have forgotten those lessons. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but look at what they were teaching us in school. Get under your desk. A wooden desk is going to protect you. And we fell for it.
Yeah, or using your elbow to cover your eyes against a brick wall.
Right.
Yeah, it is pretty silly. Hey, but at least it's better than the nothing that we have now. Jeez, at least it was
we have
something.
nothing. An absolute ignorance.
Now
there's no protection against it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you notice, too, back in those days, it was all about self-sufficiency still. You had a lot of farmers. You had people who knew how to take care of themselves. And today, if there has ever been any real evidence that we become this nanny state where they got to wipe our butts for us, look at this. Everything is fear, 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 fear. And the only way you can be protected is with the government's protection.
But look at how they failed and everyone's seen it. Katrina. It's just an example. Our government hasn't been the ones that have been out there helping people. Even the Red Cross haven't.
Right.
Sandy. Yeah,
Sandy.
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. They fail every time, and they are not going to come and help. They aren't. And it's been pretty quiet as far as hurricanes go the last few years, There's been a couple, but it could be a lot worse, and I don't know. FEMA definitely doesn't step up. So,
and that's how helpless people have become. No one was prepared to take care of themselves. No one.
No.
Well, and as we become more and more dependent on having everything delivered to us instantaneously, that has gotten rid of all of our independence
and instincts.
Yeah. That's true. It's been bred out of us.
Yeah. Oh, and what did Stalin say? It just took one generation.
Yeah.
And now they're
look at what they're doing with our kids. They're not teaching them the Constitution. You can't defend what you don't know.
Yeah, they're giving them iPhones and iPads and blah, 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 blah.
And not teaching cursive?
Not teaching cursive.
I still can't believe she said that.
Oh, dude, that's just fantastic. I think it's great.
Well, not only that, you wouldn't be able to read letters from your grandparents or from your great-great-grandparents. That it's insane that they're not teaching that cursive. That's every parent's job then, I say.
I got a friend that knows how to write in cursive backwards, so you can read it in the mirror.
That's a skill and a half.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and she's good at it too, man, let me tell you.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Is she ambidextrous too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. That's how that works.
Yeah. That comes in handy in case you got to write a message on a mirror to someone.
That's right.
I'm being kidnapped. And they don't have to put a mirror up to a mirror to read it.
Right, right.
Hey, I just got a report in. We were talking about snow in freaky places here being for the first week and a half of September. I guess it is snowing in South Dakota, Montana, and Wyoming.
There you go. That's what I said.
There's a video coming on that. Wow.
Oh, boy.
That's pretty nuts. Is that early even for up there? I know if Road were around, I know he was saying already a while ago that they were having snow.
Crazy. That's not in the mountains.
Oh, it isn't?
I don't think so.
We'll have to see.
Well, we got fires going here. We have another big fire going. And the winds now, it's getting worse because now it's not only hot, the winds are blowing, and there's no water.
Yeah. You guys are going to be really in trouble because the Santa Anas rise up in October, don't they?
Oh, that's down south, though. Santa Ana winds are, way down south. My mom lives down where the Santa Ana winds come every year.
But isn't that in October?
Yeah, it's coming up soon, September, October, because I remember when, it is about then. Mm-hmm. And those winds are treacherous.
Well, that's where that CERT program came from, was down there, because they get the wicked wildfires that go crazy with those Santa Ana winds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and those winds will knock you over. They're so bad, and they last and last.
Wow.
So, all right, I'd say for the last few minutes of the show, we should look at some things that probably would make us laugh. How's that?
Yeah.
All right, so sleepwalking man walks off a cliff.
Oh, my gosh. I bet she was on freaking Ambien.
Maybe. Actually, let me click on this. We'll look at this one for a second. I was like, man, for a sleepwalker, that's your worst nightmare.
I have big fence around my house.
Ohio. Rescue crews say an Ohio man who was camping with friends in central Kentucky's Red River Gorge is recovering after falling from a cliff while sleepwalking. Powell County Emergency Management told the local TV station that the group had set up camp near Gray Arch Trail, and the man's friend called for help after realizing he was missing in the middle of the night. Wolf County rope technician John May told the station that the Cincinnati man, whose name was not released, fell about 60 feet early Thursday morning of last week and landed in an area with several large boulders.
Ow.
He called it a miracle that the man survived. May said the camper suffered a head injury, dislocated shoulder, and a fractured leg, but he is expected to make a full recovery.
Wow.
That's unfreaking believable.
That is one lucky man.
So if you are a sleepwalker and a camper, I would say use some tent stakes, wrap a rope around your leg.
Put a padlock around your mummy bag.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Jeez.
And then there was another one about male birth control coming soon.
Oh, great. Again?
Yeah, again. But I didn't listen to this one. So let's check this out, because I want to find out what it is. Hopefully it's not an RNAi vaccine.
Yeah.
Hold on one second, though. I had this big flash crash happen while we were talking. So I'm not sure if anything... Oh, here it comes. Vasogel.
Oh, yuck. Yeah, man.
I don't know if this sounds any easier than, say, a vasectomy, but a new form of birth control would have doctors injecting a gel basically in the same place to block sperm. Now, they haven't started testing vasal gel on people yet, but that's expected to start next year. It is reversible, but you have to get a second injection then. So far, in tests on animals, it's worked for 6 months, but no word on how long they think it would actually last in people.
All right.
So how long it will be before you get prostate cancer.
Where did they inject it at?
Well, she was referring to that.
Scrotum.
The same place you'd be getting your vasectomy. So I don't know. I see guys lining up for that one.
Dumbasses. Yeah, right. That is just... If you do that, dude, you are a dumbass, and you deserve what you get, what you're going to get. I just can't even believe... Where do they come up with this crap? I mean, the pharmaceutical industry is just absolutely batshit crazy.
Well, it's all about profits.
Yeah.
So it's not batshit crazy. They make bazillions.
Yeah, they do.
I'm trying to get this...
per minute.
Yeah.
Per
probably
second.
Per minute, per second. And then you have that speed trading going on. Woo!
Yeah.
There was another story, too, that I wanted to talk about the other day, and I didn't, and that was the man who committed suicide in the Bronx. I found more details on it, but it was only 3 small paragraphs. A man kills himself by decapitation in Hunts Point section of the Bronx. A man managed to behead himself in a spectacularly gruesome suicide in the Bronx on Monday. Tomas Rivera, 51, of upstate Port Jervis, tied a chain from his head to a pole and then hit the gas on his 2005 Honda CR-V in Hunts Point, the cop said. He gunned it at 9:35 a.m., slammed into a parked vehicle on Longfellow Avenue near Randall Ave, police said, and he was decapitated and died at the scene.
Wow.
What would make you decapitate yourself as the chosen means of suicide?
That is... Dude, where there's a will, there's a way. Holy crap, man.
Sleeping pills would have been a little bit easier, don't you think?
Yeah,
probably
or just
a little less painful.
Go get like an overdose of heroin, dude. I mean, really?
I know, he might have
And he had
enjoyed it.
nobody help him.
I guess.
That's amazing. That
Here, last but not least, bad idea number 2,945. I've had a couple of them lately. Oh, damn. Let's hurry this up before we run out of time. I hate when I get this flash crash because everything just, like, chunks it here. Well, maybe we won't get to it, but it's called the De-Extinction Project. I think we talked about this yesterday. They're planning on bringing woolly mammoths back from the dead.
I heard that.
I was going to say, does that include humans?
As elephants are on the brink of extinction, well, you know, you got to wonder if that isn't what the end result is going to be about.
Yeah. That was the first thing that came into my head.
Here it comes. Maybe. Yes, National Geographic is wondering if we should be doing this at all. To me, it sounds like a bad idea. And this might not play.
Jurassic Park.
And where are they going to keep him?
Right, in a zoo, of course.
Shit.
Yeah.
Prehistoric zoo. Oh, real nice.
Well, movies come true. Jurassic Park, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Zombie
this isn't going to
apocalypse.
play, so I guess we'll have to end it on the decapitation note.
My God. I mean, really, seriously, with that, there really is a will, there's a way. I knew some poor kid that tied a belt to a doorknob and hung himself like that.
Well, that's nice.
I mean, it's...
Well, happy 9/11 Thursday in the last 30 seconds of the show.
Yeah.
Everybody make sure you stick around today. Kevin Blanche, of course, is up next because it is Thursday, followed by Libby Haleve, Mr. John Stokes. I think my schedule's wrong because Mr. Jack Blood's back on the air after that, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern. Chuck O'Celli with his 9/11 event. Jefferson Republic Radio, that's the new show, starts at 8. Double Cross with Drew and Chuck, and then Double Cross 9/11 special from last year to follow that. Thank you, ladies, for being on with me today.
Thanks for hanging, everybody.
Thank you.
Everybody have a happy Thursday. And we will catch up with you guys tomorrow for Friday. All right, guys, everyone take care.